What's the best angle here? Perfect. Does it look good? Welcome friends to TJsRC. Glad you're here with us today. I'm pretty excited today because we're finally going to be putting some brushless power back into the Bronco here. I've been driving the stock motor and my backup brushed crawler ESC for a while. It's been doing great, but you know what? I need some more power. And so to fix that problem, I went ahead and got Castle Sidewinder 4 electronic speed controller. This is a sensorless brushless speed controller. And for a power plant here, the motor that we're going to be using is Tenshock's 2400 kV Rock Crawler Edition brushless sensorless motor. I look forward to seeing how this is going to do in the Bronco with the new Sidewinder 4. At the end of the video, I'm going to show a side-by-side video clip of the Bronco climbing the incline board with the stock brushed motor, and then the new setup in there. I'm pretty confident that the stock brushed motor has much better slow speed control than this non-censored brushless setup that we're going to be putting in. However, we're going to look at that side-by-side footage at the end to see how the slow speed control compares between the two. So be sure to stick around at the end if you want to see that. Let's head over to the bench and get this installed. Once you get it over here to the bench, take your 2mm driver. You got 2 bolts here that hold the battery tray down. You're going to take those out, pop the battery tray up. Then there's 3 bolts to hold the motor cover down. You're going to pull those out. And in my case, I got a couple of bolts that hold the speaker in place for the sound system. So I'm going to take all 7 of those bolts out, but we'll fast forward through that. If you got any zip ties holding wires down, you'll have to get in and disconnect all of those. Then you got to undo the wiring. I already disconnected it from my receiver extension, so theoretically it should just pop right out. Depending on how you've got your ESC fastened down, you'll need to disconnect that. I'm just using double-sided tape, so I got to get that pried up out of the way. Pull the old tape out of there. Before you pull this motor cover off, do a quick visual check to make sure you don't have any big clumps of dirt that are going to fall in there. You won't want that. That just pulls straight up. Set this aside. Now that we've got this out, now to remove the motor mount plate, we're going to use our 2.5mm driver. And that's all there is to getting that off. Now I'm assuming if you are watching this that you're familiar with Traxxas TRX4 motor mount plates, but if you're not, these letters A through H correspond to different pinion sizes. A for the smallest pinion, the 9-tooth, which is currently what I'll be running, and that's also what I'm going to put on the Tenshock motor when I reinstall it on here. But the different letters are for different pinions, so A9, B10, etc. Last thing we're going to do with the stock motor is remove the pinion. There we go. This can just go to the side. Back to the backup box. Before you put anything back in here, you just want to give a good visual inspection to everything. Since you're already this far into the truck, down into the bowels of the beast, just give it a good look over and make sure everything looks as it should and that nothing is out of place. Next, we're going to put the pinion on, but we're not going to tighten it down all the way because I might have to adjust where it sits on that shaft. Different motors sometimes will have different output shaft length, and so you'll have to play around with making sure that the gears mesh properly, because you don't want this sticking so far out that it hits the spur gear. That'll just chew your spur gear up. Next, we'll add the mounting plate. Then we're just going to test fit this down here to see if we need to adjust where that pinion sits. I don't know if you can tell, but with it sitting in there, I do need to slide the pinion in just a little bit closer to the motor, because the grub screw is going to hit the spur gear if I leave it set where it's at. All right, that looks good enough. So now the process is just reversed. You bring the motor cover in, make sure you're not pinching any wires with it. From here, you just reverse the process. Once the motor's in, get your double stick tape. Looks like this is going to fit perfectly in that spot. Once you got the ESC mounted, go ahead and run your wires. You want to make sure these wires stay tucked neatly where you want them to be, especially when you go ahead and move the battery tray back down, because you don't want to risk pinching the wires. Once your wires are laid where they need to be, you can go ahead and put the battery tray back down. Before you screw that down though, just make sure those wires aren't pinched. Now I got to put the speaker back in place. This spot up here in the front, it works really well. There we go. Now we just got to figure out what to do with this on-off switch. Well, that's going to have to be a good enough spot for the on-off switch for right now. I'm not sure what I want to do with it yet. I'm really tempted to just go ahead and hot wire that on-off switch out. Just rely on plugging the battery in and out for on-off. We've got everything installed. It's good to go. Now it's time to set it down and give it a run and see if it works. As you saw in that side-by-side footage, I'm actually quite surprised at how well the sensorless brushless system did just on the ramp under load going super slow. So I'm pretty impressed with that. I think it's going to be good. It does make a unique noise compared to the brushed motor for sure. I'm looking forward to seeing how this thing does out on the trail. Thanks so much for being here. Look forward to seeing the next video. Subscribe if you're not already. Hit that like button. Or hit the dislike button if you can't stand listening to me talk. Either way, you guys are awesome. We'll see you next time.